Hey guys, welcome to my channel. So in today's video, we're going to discuss about Angular 15 new features, deprecations, and of course the breaking changes. So guys, this video is going to be a little bit of longer because we're going to discuss about so many new features, multiple deprecations, so many breaking changes. So stay tuned, watch till the end. So let's continue with that. So in this video, the first we will talk about what are the new features in Angular 15. So we have 14 new features in this release, which we are going to discuss step by step each topic. Then we will be discussing about the deprecation in Angular 15, and yes, we have 6 deprecations here in Angular, which definitely are the breaking changes, but we do not have solution for this. It is going to be deprecated, and if you're going to upgrade to Angular version, you will have to move on. Now we have the breaking changes, and yes, they are a lot. We have 12 breaking changes in Angular 15. I'll provide you the solution of each and every breaking change. So let's continue with that. So Angular 15 is here guys, and Angular 15 comes with dozen of refinements which leads to better developer experience and performance. So we have here a couple of Angular 15 new features, so let's discuss about it. The first thing is standalone APIs are now available. So in Angular 14, Angular team has introduced Angular's new feature, which is new stable APIs, which enable developers to build applications without using ng module. But that was just a developer preview, and now it is part of the stable API surface. Angular team has ensured that standalone components works across the Angular, and they now fully work in HttpClient, Angular elements, router, and more. The standalone APIs allow you to bootstrap an application using a single component. I have created a complete video on top of it, how it works, how can you build an application without using ng module. I have added the link in the description section. You can watch this video if you're interested to learn about standalone components. So here is just an example of the standalone components, how it is going to be. Alright, so next thing is router and HttpClient tree shakable standalone API. Yes, you can build a multi-routing application using the new router standalone APIs. To declare the route, you can use this particular piece of code. The same way, you just have to create a routing array, provide your paths and components here, and finally register the app route in the bootstrap application call. This is what we do when we are working with standalone components. Okay, so here we register our components inside the bootstrap application, because this is going to be the place from where we are going to bootstrap the app, because we no longer have the access of the module, right? In the previous versions, you will notice here we used to provide app modules, but now we are registering app component here. So the bootstrapping application will be start from app component, and from here in the providers array we are providing our routes with the help of provider route. So another benefit of the provider router API is that it is tree shakable. Bundlers can remove unused features of the route at the build time. In the testing, the Angular team found that removing these unused features from the bundle resulting in an 11% of reduction in the size of the router code in the application bundle. This is quite interesting. The next thing is Directive Composition API. The Directive Composition API brings code reuse to another level. This feature was inspired by the most popular feature request on GitHub here on your screen. Need ability to add directives to host element in component declaration. So this issue is being closed now. So basically the Directive Composition API enables developers to enhance host elements with directives and equips Angular with a powerful code reuse strategy. That's only possible because of our new compiler. The Directive Composition API only works with standalone directives. So let's take a look in the example how it works. So here now we can provide our host directives within the component itself. So here we have has color directive, and we have directive CDK menu. We can pass our inputs from here, output from here. So in the code snippet here, we Angular enhance the mat menu with two directives, which is has colors and CDK menu. So mat menu reuses all the inputs, outputs, and associated logic with has colors, and only the logic and the selected inputs from the CDK menu. This technique may remind you of multiple inheritance or basically traits in some programming languages. So let's talk about the next thing, which is image directive is now stable. In Angular 14.2, basically Angular has released the developer preview of image directive, and now in Angular 15 it is coming as a part of Angular 15 stable version. So as per the Angular team, by using this feature, basically this directive, they observed 75% improvement in Lighthouse lab test performance. So this is pretty impressive. I really want to try this out. So in Angular 15 versions, it is also includes some of the new features for this image directives. One of it is automatic SRC set generation. So this directive ensures that an appropriately sized image is requested by generating the source set attribute for you. This can reduce download times for your image. Second is fill mode. It is the experimental feature. This mode causes the image to fill its parent container, removing the requirement to declare the image width and height. It is handy tool if you don't know the size of your image, or if you don't like to migrate CSS background image to use the directive. This is going to be really amazing. Here's just a small example that's how basically we can use this directive. To use it within a component, just replace the images src attribute with ng-src and make sure you specify the priority attribute for your LCP image. You can find the more information about it in the documentation, which I have added in the description section. So the next feature is functional router guards. With the help of shakable standalone routing API, Angular team has worked on reducing boilerplates in the guards. So in this example here, you will notice this is the simple guard which is doing nothing. It's a service. We have imported the guard, and within the can activate, we are just returning whether the user is logged in or not. And this is the route implementation. This is how we used to do in previous versions, right? But in the new versions, with the new functional router guard, you can refactor the code here like this. So now it has been reduced with just 3 lines of code. Just look at this, man. So we have just arrow function, and we have this they are taking profit of their inject functions, and here we just have to inject the dependency of the service, and here we go. We just can call this function. That's all we need to do. This is really amazing. Let me know if you want to see this in practical. Okay, so the thing is, let's move to the next one. Next thing is router unwraps defaults import. To make the router simpler and reduce boilerplate further, the router now auto unwraps default exports when the lazy loading happening. Let's suppose you have the lazy load component. So this is just an example here. Before this change to lazy load a standalone component, you had to do like this in Angular 14th version. If you wanted to learn more about, I have created a separate video on this, how to lazy load a component. Make sure you watch this out. I have added the link in the description section. So yeah, so this is the normal component that we used to do in Angular 14. Now the router will look for a default export, and if it finds it, use it automatically, which simplifies the route declaration too. Here is an example. Now we just have to do this. We do not need to call the promise part here. It is just going to reduce the boilerplate, and it is easy to remember, right? Alright, so let's move to the next one. Better stack traces. So basically Angular team has partnered with the DevTools, Chrome DevTools, to fix the error things. Basically they wanted to help us out with the better error stack. So let's take a look at a simple stack trace that you may get working on an Angular app, something like this. This snippet suffers from 2 main problems here. There is only 1 line corresponding to code that the developer has authored. Everything else is coming from the third-party dependency, which is Angular framework, John.js or RxJS. Second thing is, there is no information about what user interaction caused the error, right? This is what happened with all of us who is working with Angular. Sometimes we will not be able to figure out what is the error exactly. It is coming from some third library, right, where we have nothing to do with it. So the Chrome DevTool team created a mechanism to ignore scripts coming from the node modules by annotating source map via the Angular CLI. So Angular team has integrated John.js with async stack tagging API, which allowed us to provide linked stack trace. So these two changes dramatically improve the stack traces developers see in the Chrome DevTool. Here you can see the execution from the button press of the app component all the way to the error. You can read. So now it is looking pretty good, right? Alright, so let's move to the next one. Release MDC based component to stable. So the refactoring of the Angular material component based on material design component, which is also called WebMDC, is now completed. This change allows Angular to align even close to the material design specification. So because of this, due to the new DOM and CSS, you will likely find that some styles in your application need to be adjusted, particularly if your CSS is overriding styles on internal elements in any of the migrated components. The old implementation of each new component is now deprecated, but still available from a legacy import. For example, you can import the old mat button implementation by importing the legacy button module. Angular team has moved many of the components to use design tokens and CSS variables under the hood, which will provide a smooth path for applications to adopt the Material 3 component styles. And definitely it's a breaking change. Next thing is CDK list box. The component dev kit offers a set of behavior primitives for building UI components. In Angular 15, Angular team has introduced another primitive that you can customize for your use case, the CDK list box. Here it is. This is how it looks like. The Angular CDK list box module provides directives to help create custom list box interactions based on the Y-area list box pattern. By using this Angular CDK list box, you get all the expected behavior for an accessible experience, including BIDI layout support, keyboard interactions, and focus management. All directives apply their associated area roles in their host elements. Next thing is improvements in the experimental esbuild support. So in Angular 14, Angular team has announced that experimental support for esbuild in ngbuild to enable faster build times and simplify the pipeline. In Angular 15, we now have experimental SAS SVG template, file replacement, and ngbuild watch support. Give esbuild a try by updating your builder's Angular JSON from this piece of code to this piece of code. Let me know if you want me to add this in description section. I'll do it for you. The next thing is automatic imports in language services. The language services now can automatically import components that you are using in templates but haven't added to a standalone component or ng module. So this is how it is going to work. You can directly import by just clicking on the quick fix. This one is a great tool actually. Alright, let's move to the next one. Some enhancements to the CLI improvements. In an Angular CLI, Angular team has introduced support for standalone stable API. Now you can generate a new standalone components via ngg component -- standalone command. Angular team is also planning to make some changes for ng new. Apart from this, there is one more small change, which is provide an ability to configure the default options for date pipes. This feature basically allows you to globally change the default formatting configuration for the for the date pipe. Here is an example with the new Bootstrap application API for the standalone component. That's how you can add your pipes here. In the provider array, same, you just have to add the provide date pipe default option here, and the use value will be the date format, and the date format will be like short date. The configuration basically will enable short date format for all the places you use date pipe in your application directly from here. Version. So mistyped banana in the box. Third one. Another feature that caught my attention is about the banana in a box. Banana in a box is a term described the syntax of two-way binding in Angular template. You have surely seen it multiple times but didn't know the name. It looks like this. Yeah, ng model. You might have used many times. So parentheses with the ng model from a banana and square brackets symbolize a box where the banana is stored. Unfortunately, sometimes people write the same code in the different order. They put parentheses outside and the box inside like this. So it gives a lot of errors. The fix will report such issues and offer a fix through language services. Next thing is add link preload tag for priority image during SSR, basically server-side rendering. To make sure priority image are loaded as quickly as possible, Angular team has added a functionality to the image directive to include a link rel preload tag for the users when using Angular Angular Universal. So there is no action needed on your end if you are already enabled the image directive. If you have specified an image as priority, the directive will automatically preload it. Alright, so that's all about the new features. Now let's talk about some deprecation that happened. So basically, after analyzing thousands of projects within the Google team, so Angular team has found some of the rarely used things in the Angular, and they have decided to deprecate it into the Angular 15th version. So one of it is provided in by any. So this is being deprecated if you are using it in one of your projects, so you might face some issues. So in short, you can just directly add provide in as a root for your services. All right, so the next thing is Angular team is also deprecating providing this ng module because they found it is not much useful. So basically it does not have a wide range of usage, and in most of the cases is used incorrectly. So that's why they are removing it. And apart from this, with the evolving layout in CSS, Angular basically have decided to stop publishing new releases for Angular Flex layout package. Oh wow, this is heartbreaking. This Flex layout is really amazing. Alright, that's fine. So now Angular team will continue providing security and browser compatibility fixes for the next year at least, and that's all. It is going to be deprecated completely by the end of next year. Apart from the second thing is injected.get method with the inject flags parameter is replaced by injected.get method with the inject option object. Another one is like testbed.inject function with the inject flags parameter is replaced by testbed.inject function with the inject options object. Router link with href directive is replaced by router link directive. These were the deprecations. Now let's talk about the breaking changes. So here is the list of breaking changes in Angular 15 that might require you to review and refactor parts of your Angular application. So in Angular 15 supports Node.js version 14.20x, 16.13.x and 18.10x. In Angular 15, Angular no longer supports the Node.js version of 14.15 to 19x or 16.10 to 12x. Second thing is Angular 15 supports TypeScript version 4.8 or later. In Angular 15, Angular has no longer supports for TypeScript versions older than 4.8. Third is @keyframes name format change, and this is going to be the big breaking change of this release. In Angular 15, keyframes names are prefied with the component's scope name. For example, in a component definition whose scope name is host my cap or @keyframes rules with the name in Angular 14 of like this, it will become like this. Basically they are going to add host my component, CMP means component I guess, underscore foo. So this change can break any TypeScript or JavaScript code that uses the name of keyframe rule. To accommodate the breaking change, you can change the component's view encapsulation to none or shared DOM, or define @keyframe rules in global style sheet such as style.css, define @keyframes rules in your own code. So these are the basically solution if you don't want to break the application. Next thing is invalid constructors for dependency injections can report compilations error. When a class inherits its constructors from a base class, the compiler can report an error when that constructor cannot be used for dependency injection purpose. So this can happen when the base class is missing an Angular decorator such as injectable or directive functions, when the constructor contains parameters that do not have an associated token such as primitive types like string. These situations used to have unexpectedly at runtime. For example, a class might be constructed without any of its constructor parameters. In Angular 15, this is reported as a compilation error. So new errors reported because of this change can be resolved by either decorating the base class from which the constructor is inherited or adding an explicit constructor to the class for which the error is reported. In Angular 15, set disabled state is always called when control value accessor is attached. You can opt out of this behavior with forms module with config or reactive forms module with config. That is the solution. Next thing is in Angular 15, the title property is required on activated route snapshots. So the next thing is RouterOutlet instantiates the components after change detection. So before Angular 15, during navigation, RouterOutlet instantiated the component being activated immediately. But in Angular 15, the component is now initiated until after change detection runs. The change could affect tests that do not trigger change detection after a router navigation. For example, if your component is constructors calls router.getCurrent navigations, this could affect production code that relies on the exact timing of the component availability. Next thing is Angular compiler option enable IV has been removed. IV is Angular's only rendering engine now. So if you remember in the previous release in Angular 13, I used to do a lot. I used to do tsconfig.json, and there I used to add enable IV as true or false based on my application status. But now the things are different. IV is going to be the default engine now. Angular material components based on MDC. I think this is we have already discussed. In Angular Material 15, many components have been refactored to be based on the official material design components for web MDC. So for more information about breaking changes in material design component in Angular 15, you can read the documentation. I have attached the link in the description section. Basically, hardening attributes and property binding rules for iframe elements. So this is the last one. Existing iframe instances might have security sensitive attributes applied to them as an attribute or a property binding. These security sensitive attributes can occur in a template or in a directives host binding. Such occurrence requires an update to ensure compliance with the new and stricter rules about iframe bindings. So alright guys, so that's all about Angular's new features, deprecations and breaking changes. So quite a lot of stuff Angular has provided in this release, and of course it's a big release, so yeah, it was quite expected. Alright guys, so thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you have learned something, and if you want me to make a video on any of the Angular's new feature released in Angular 15, please mention it in the comment section. I'll take the feedback and I'll definitely create a video on that for you guys. Alright guys, thank you. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button, and if you're new to the channel, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and